"You'll never be as good as your brother." The words fell like a sentence, my father's voice steady, my mother nodding in agreement, my brother smirking in the corner. I stood up, calm. "Then tell him to pay all the bills. I'm not sending money anymore." That was when my mother's face twisted in confusion. "What money? We never received a single dollar from you." And in that silence, the entire room shifted. I'd been sending money for years, every month, on time, into an account my brother had set up. He told me it was for them, utilities, groceries, the mortgage. I believed him, because that's what they always told me growing up. Trust your brother, follow his lead, he knows better. While I worked 2 jobs and skipped meals, I wired cash. While they praised him for being responsible, I watched from the shadows, proud I could help, even if no one knew it was me. But now, my mother's shock told me everything. The money never reached them. He pocketed it. Memories snapped into place like shards of glass. The new car he bought secondhand, the expensive watch he wore on discount, the sudden vacations he claimed were gifts from friends, and the way they defended him even when he failed at everything. Because behind the scenes, he made sure I looked like the selfish one. He wasn't just stealing my money, he was stealing my place in their eyes. I didn't argue that night, didn't reveal the transfers, didn't shout about betrayal. I just smiled and said, "You'll see soon enough." Because rage is loud, but revenge is quiet. The first step was proof. I pulled every receipt, every transfer, every message. I built a file thicker than a dictionary, time-stamped and undeniable. The second step was silence. I stopped sending the money, completely. Not a cent moved from my account. At first, nothing happened. My parents assumed I was sulking. My brother walked taller, as if cutting me down gave him inches. Then the cracks began. Late-night calls from my mother asking why the utilities hadn't been paid. My father's voice sharp with frustration, "We almost lost the house insurance this month." I told them calmly, but I thought my brother was handling everything. "You always said he was the responsible one." Every word was a knife wrapped in velvet. By the 3rd month, the lights in their house went dark. By the 4th, the bank began calling. I showed up one evening, dressed sharp, expression calm. They were sitting in the dark living room, bills scattered like battlefield debris. I set the folder down on the table. "Every transfer, every dollar, every lie he told you." My brother's face drained. My mother picked up a page, her hands trembling. My father read line after line, his jaw locking tighter with each one. When my father finally spoke, it wasn't to me, it was to him. "You stole from us, from your own family." The shouting that followed was chaos, my brother begging, denying, then exploding with excuses. But their eyes were on the paper, not him. For once, the truth was undeniable. And I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I just leaned back and let the evidence do the work. When the dust settled, I stood. "You compared me to him my whole life, said I'd never measure up. But while you were praising him, I was the one keeping this family afloat." No one answered. They couldn't. My brother stared at me, broken. My mother sobbed quietly. My father said nothing, because silence was all he had left. I left the house that night with my head high. Not because they apologized, they didn't. Not because they begged, they wouldn't. But because the truth had finally spoken louder than their favoritism. They wanted me to compete with my brother. Instead, I exposed him. Now the bills are theirs to pay. The shame is theirs to carry. And the silence I left behind in that house is heavier than any speech I could have given. I don't need their approval anymore. I don't need to prove my worth, because I already did. And when they chose him over me, they chose to live with the consequences.